Hello everyone, welcome back. In this video, we're going to talk about making decisions in our code with if, else, and elif statements. By the end of this video, you'll be able to control how your program behaves based on conditions, a fundamental skill in every programming language. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notifications so you'll be aware of the next videos coming up. Let's dive into the video. Let's start with the most basic control structure, the if statement. And the way that we're going to have is by having our if statement right here, then we're going to have our condition right here, and this double columns, and under this, but some space inside of this if, which means we are inside of our if block, so we're going to have our code. For example, let's say we're going to have this print of our test word. And here in this condition, the value must be Boolean. So we can have this static value of true for our test and start. And if we run, you can see we got our test. And if this is not true, this is not going to be printed. So if we have this as false, for example, and run our code again, you can see this time we don't have any outputs right here. And you can use your comparison operators, which we have learned in the previous parts, and you can use them right here. For example, let's say here we're going to have our simple variable which holds the value of 40. And here we want our if statement to check if a is greater than 50, print this test. And if we run, because it's not true, and this comparison returns false value, so we don't have this. But if we change this to if a is less than 50, because it's true, so this returns us true value, and if we run, you can see we got our test word printed right here. But pay attention, if you don't have this spacing right here, it's not going to recognize as inside of this if. And you can have multiple prints right here. For example, let's say here we have test 1, test 2, and going on. Let's say we have another test 3. If we want to have all of them print with this condition, and if a is lower than 50, of course this is going to run and we got our results. But if we don't follow this rule of being inside of our if block, and for example, let's say our first one is here but not the others, if we run this time, you can see all of them run like this. But if our comparison has the value of false instead of true and run, you can see we got our test 2 and test 3 running, because these two are not inside of our if statement. So if we want to have them, we should get them inner in our code with some spaces, or basically you can use one tab. Now let's handle what happens when the condition is false. That's where our else comes in. So we have this print, let's fix this. We got this a is bigger than 50. And we want to tell if this is not true, run the other code. If we have another code right here, for example, this print of a is less than 50. If we run this, you can see we got a is less than 50 in this situation. But if we got this to be, for example, 60 and we got a bigger than 50, if we run again, you can see we got both of them printed right here. And to fix that, we're going to have simply this else right here, then another double column, and we move our print of a is less than 50 into our else block. Pay attention, our else don't have any conditions, and this is based on this condition. Again, if this is true, this is going to be run, and if this is going to be false, this is going to run for us. And now this time, if we have a to be 60, if we run, you can see we got this a is bigger than 50. But if we have this one to be, for example, 40, if we run again, you can see we got this a is less than 50. But let's say we want to check more than one condition. And for example, we want to have our score here as our a. So here we're going to have our score. And based on this number, we're going to pass and print the grade that it belongs. For example, if it's above 90, we're going to print grade A. If it's above 80 and lower than 90, grade B. Above 70 and lower than 80, grade C. And below 70, grade F. And to do that, what we can do is having our score here in our comparison and check if it's bigger or equal to 90. And if it's true, we're going to pass the grade of A. And here in the else part, we can have another if statement. And pay attention, this is another code that it can run. And here we can check if score is above or equal to 80, then we want to print grade B. Pay attention, because here we got another if statement. This is the space that we need to be inside of this else. So we should have this right here. But because we want this print to be inside of this if, we should have another spacing right here too. And by having this, we can check. For example, let's say we got the score of 95. If we run this, we got this grade A. If we have this value and score of 85, if we run, we got this grade B. But let's say we have multiple of these type of else and inside of that another if, which having another thing. For example, let's say here we're going to have this else again. This time we want to check if score is equal or greater than 70, and we want to print this grade C and another else here. And this time, because we checked all of the other values that we got, this means here we don't need any comparison. If it's below 90, it's going to come here. If it's below 80, it's going to come here. And if it's below 70, it's going to come here. And we want the values and scores below 70 to have this simple grade of F. And now here we can come and check our code. If we run this 85, you can see we got this B. If we have this 75, if we run again, we got this grade C. And if we have this score of 55, if we run, you can see we got this grade F. But this is very messy to maintain. And we have another thing which is very good and very useful in programming for us, which is our elif statements. And what that is, it's basically going to do the same this thing, but in one line and very clean. And for that, what we need to do is we need to have our if and else in the same line and simply remove these items. So we got our elif, then our condition and our block of code. And we can do that with all of these items. So we have this elif right here, as well as this else right here at the end. And here, pay attention, we can use else with the elif too. So we're going to have this kind of syntax right here. We got our score right here. If it's above 90, we're going to have grade A. If it's above 80, we're going to have grade B. If it's above 70, we're going to have grade C. And otherwise, which is not above of 70 and all of these other items, it means it's below 70 and we can have this print of grade F right here. But let's come back to our simple if statement here and talk about how we can combine multiple conditions with each other. For example, let's say here we got this age here, which is going to be, let's say, 30 right here. And we want to check if our age is above of 18. So we got the simple print of you are adult. But let's say we want to check if the age is in some range between of 18 and 40. And for that, we can have another if statement inside of this if statement right here. We're going to check if age is below 40. And then we want to print that you are invalid range. And here, if we run, you can see we got this result. But if we're going to be, for example, 15, because this is not going to be true, so we don't have anything printing right here, which we can have some else here too. For example, for this, let's say we're going to have else. We have again this print and you are below the range, and we can have another else for this if too. So we got this else, and here again we have this print, and here we're going to pass this string of you are above the range. And by having these controls here, if we run again, you can see because it's 15, we got you are below the range. If we got this to be, for example, 55 and run again, you got this you are above the range. But another way that we can do this is very cleaner, and we can combine these two conditions with each other. And the way that we're going to do that is, let's remove this second comparison for a moment, and here we're going to have this and pass our second comparison, which is going to be this age below 40. And again, if we are 55, if we run, we don't have anything. If we are 15, if we run, we don't have anything again. But if we are, for example, 25 and run, you can see that we got this printing of you are in valid range. But what this AND does? These are basic programming combinations. In Python, we got 3 different combining things that we can use, which are AND, OR, and NOT. And what those are, AND is like this. If our first condition is true and our second one is true, then our third one and our result is going to be true. Otherwise, it's going to be false. So for using AND and having true, both of them should be true. But after that, we got this OR, which in that we only need one of 2 statements or conditions to be true. If we got both of them true, we got the true result. If we got one of them true and other one false, it's going to be true again. And the opposite of that, the first one false and second one true, again we got this true. And the only way that we got false results in OR is by having both of them to be false. And you can see, because we use this AND, this is going to give us this result and print this if both this and this is going to be true. Which means if we got this true right here, and again this true, it's going to run for us. If we got one of them to be false and run, this is not going to print anything for us. But if we got OR instead of this AND right here, if we run, you can see again we got this print, because in OR we need only one of these 2 conditions and Boolean values to be true. And the last one that I mentioned is our NOT, which we can use this to simply reverse the result. So let's say we got this if age is above 18 again. And here we got this you are adult. And if we don't have this NOT, if we run, you can see we got you are adult because age is 25. But if we have this to be 15, for example, if we run again, we don't have anything printing because, of course, 15 is not bigger than 18. But if we got this NOT right here, it's going to reverse the result of this comparison. And this time, because 15 is not above 18, so this has the value of false, but NOT is going to come and make the value of this the true. And if we run this time, you can see again we got our result using our NOT. And you can use this to check some things in your systems. For example, let's say you got some applications that you have this variable of logged in, which is going to be, for example, false at first. You can check if not logged in, then print you need to log in first. You can do the same thing with other things. And now if we run, you can see we got this you need to log in first. But if this was true, of course, we don't need anything to be printing here. But pay attention, you can do the same thing and same logic with other syntax too. You can check if login equals to false, then print this. So if we run again, we got this result. But if we use not, it's very cleaner and very easier to maintain. So in this part, we learned how if statements execute code when a condition is true, while the else handles the opposite case. You can use comparison and logical operators to build powerful conditions that you can merge the comparisons with AND, OR, and NOT too. And as well as these items, you learned how Python block works, which some space before of our line starts, which make this line inside of the block of the line above it. If this video was helpful, please give a like and subscribe, and drop any questions that you might have in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.